welcome back to my channel, another bag making tutorial. Today we are going to make this bag. It is the Zenaida backpack. It's so cute. I've had many requests for a backpack purse, and I've made the Clover by Bucala before, but this one here, it's larger than that. This one is by Oro Rosa Patterns. It's really cute. It's about a medium-sized bag. Let me show you some of the features. It has the adjustable crossbody, or not crossbody, backpack straps here. The only thing I changed was I like my handles to flop down. So in the pattern, I show you how I did a modification to add the rectangular rings rather than having it a continuous strap on both sides. So yeah, so this one, it has the slip pocket here. It has a slip pocket here. It's got the two side pockets, double zip closure, slip pocket on that side, and a zipper pocket on this side. Yeah, again, Oro Rosa's outdone herself. This is just the cutest little backpack purse. It is a binding finish. I believe she has it marked as a boisterous intermediate or something. I'm not sure. Honestly, the hardest part of this bag was putting the hardware of the back straps, for me anyways. It's similar to doing a crossbody strap, but these aren't detachable, so it played with my brain a little bit. But yeah, I said the binding, I've grown to love binding. You just take it slow and it's easy to go. I have a binding class down in my Bag Makers 101 playlist if you want to check that out. Yeah, so the Zenaida backpack by Oro Rosa Patterns. Let's get to it.
You are going to need hardware wise, you're going to need some medium rivets, one magnetic snap, two 1-inch sliders, some extra wide double fold binding. This is the side I like. It's 1/2 inch wide. If you're doing it my way, you are going to need 6 1-inch rectangular rings. For strap ends, I'm not putting strap ends on my backpack straps. 3 number 5 zipper pulls and number 5 zipper tape. You're going to need 2 connector pieces. Your side pocket pieces, 2 exterior and 2 lining. My lining pieces are backed with medium woven interfacing. I'm using SF101. You're going to need 4 zip panel pieces, 2 in your exterior fabric, 2 in your lining fabric. Again, my lining pieces are backed with SF101 medium woven interfacing. A slip pocket piece and a zipper pocket piece, both backed with SF101 or medium woven interfacing. Two backstrap pieces. Two handles. As I'm doing them fold down, I have cut my handles to 17 inches. I have 4 connector pieces. This is to do the fold down method. So I cut these to 11 inches. I do learn by the end that I wish I had done them to 12 inches. So I would suggest cutting them to 12 inches. Your flat piece, a lining piece backed with a Decovil Lite, and your exterior piece with Decovil Lite. Also, before the Decovil Lite on your fabric piece, make sure you put medium woven interfacing. Your two gusset pieces, your exterior piece, and your lining piece backed with medium woven interfacing. Your front pocket pieces, one for your exterior, one for your lining. I'm using the same print for both. Your exterior one, as well as with the woven interfacing, you'll have Decovil Lite fused to the exterior piece. Your lower front slip pocket, I'm doing in the same fabrics, both backed with medium woven interfacing. Your main panels, you're going to need your two lining pieces backed with medium woven interfacing, and your two exterior pieces, both backed with Decovil Lite outside of the seam allowances. Okay, so I went ahead and I did my straps already and put on my strap ends. So I have my two handles here, and these are my backpack straps. So you just do them the same. I, on one end, folded it under so I wouldn't have to put on a backpack, or not a backpack, a 1-inch strap end. So just set those aside for now. If you need to know how to make those, I do have a link to my class in my in the description there. I also did my connectors. All I did was fold the long edges into the center line and then top stitch them with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. To prep these for later, you're going to take your two of your rectangular rings and a little bit of double-sided tape, or you could just clip these. You don't have to use the double-sided tape. Just put the tape on one end. Insert your ring and fold that wrong sides together and secure it with the tape or a clip. And these will make it ready to go here in a little bit when we add these to our back panel. Okay, so we're going to prepare our connectors. Again, I did these at 11 inch. I would suggest doing them at 12 inch just to make them slightly longer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1/4 inch double-sided tape and place some along each of those long edges. And then you're going to fold the long edges into the center. And do the same with the other side. And fold that other long edge into the center. And then take a little bit more double-sided tape. Again, if you don't want to use the double-sided tape, you can hold these in place with clips as well. And then fold the folded sides in together. It's exactly how we make handbag straps, except for we are not stitching these at this moment. That's why that extra piece of double-sided tape is there, just to hold it in place. So again, go ahead and do that with the other three. And this is not in the pattern. This is just my way of doing it. So this is what we have. Let me show you how I got this panel done. I finished one ahead of time. So you're going to take one panel, find your centers on top and bottom. Make sure it's centered, that our snips are somewhat even. I always like to double and triple check this. Now I am going to measure down 1.5 inches from one end and make a mark with my chalk. And then on the back side, we want to put double-sided tape just below where that 1 inch side, but on the opposite side. Okay, and then you're going to take your rectangular rings. You're going to pull the tape part way down, and where we made that mark, we are going to put our ring down to that and then fold wrong sides together, using the double-sided tape on the other side to kind of hold that in place, like so. I also like to just cut these corners here on a little bit of an angle, just so they're not as visible on the other side. Like so. Then I'm just going to take another teeny tiny piece of double-sided tape and just put it over top of what we folded over. And do the exact same thing with the other one. Okay, so from where the rectangular ring is, or the fold there, we want to mark down about a 1 inch line. Sorry for the shaky table, everybody. And what this line is just going to give us a guideline for where we are going to stitch across when we're attaching this to the back panel. Okay, so now you're going to take your ruler, and from that center mark, we are going to place these straps 2 inches to the left and right of that center mark. So I am going to use my ruler as a guide to put my strap on nice and straight. So I'm going to remove my double-sided, or remove the paper from my double-sided tape and line that up nice and straight with the edge of my ruler. And do the same on the other side, 2 inches. Now, if you want to do the straps the Oro Rosa way, be sure to check out my Magdalena tutorial, or the Erica Bowler bag tutorial, I will leave the links down below for those tutorials if you want to know how to do the straps the way they are written in the pattern. So there should be about 4 inches in between the two straps. And again, I'm just double and triple checking to make sure we are even. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take this to the machine and top stitch this up this side, across here, and down with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on all of the straps. And this is what we have. And then I also put a rivet in here backed with some Decovil Heavy, just to give it a little bit more stability. Okay, so decide which one you want to be the front and which one you want to be the back. I'm going to work on the back right now. So what I do for my strap placements is I just do little snips here in my pattern piece so I can line up my sides. Make sure it's nice and even, and then I take my marking pen or chalk, disappearing marking pen because this will show. I'm just using a Sew Line disappearing ink pen, and I mark where those straps are going to go in between those cut marks that we made. Flip it over and do the other side. Now remember, we're only doing this on the back panel. This is where our backpack straps are going to go. So you can see my markings there. That pen will disappear. Actually, it disappears quite quickly. So, okay, then you're going to take your connectors, and I'm measuring up about 3/4 of an inch from the raw edges because I want there just to be just a little bit of overhang. That just makes it a little bit easier to sew it on. So you're going to use those lines that we drew for our placement for the angle of how we want our connectors to go on. So I'm just going to put the edges somewhat in line with that 3/4 inch chalk mark I made and hold it together with a few clips. So this is on the bottom of the bag, and this is where our backpack straps, the bottom of our backpack straps, are going to connect. Oopsies. Doesn't help when your piece keeps moving. And then I'm just going to go baste those on with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so those are on just like so. You can see I have some overhang here, but it's about 1/8 of an inch-ish. Now we want to do the same for the placement of our actual straps. So again, using your strap placement markings and a chalk pen or an erasable ink pen or a disappearing ink pen, make your marks, your guiding marks. Okay, and then you're going to take your backpack straps just one end of it. Again, I'm going to mark about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch overhang. Now I went and finished both sides of my backpack straps. I did not need to do that. I really only needed to do one side of my backpack strap finished. So, because I'm just going to end up cutting off the side of these ones. Okay, so again, you're going to use those lines we just draw as a guide for the angle we want our straps to be at. So that's the first strap. Grab your second strap. Now these are the long ones. They're not the short handles. These are the long straps. And I'm just going to roll up the loose end like this just because they're so long and kind of in my way, just to keep them out of the way on each of these straps. And I'm just using my extra large clips to sort of hold those in place, hopefully. Okay, so with your other strap, line it up with that angle and secure with clips. You want the angle of these to be somewhat symmetrical to each other, but opposite. So they're both kind of angled into the center top. And then I'm going to go base those on with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just like so. And then I'm just going to trim up the excess off to match my panel. And same with my bottom straps. You will not leave these overhanging because this is a binding finish. We're going to need these to be even with our panels in order to get captured into that binding. Okay, so now we are going to work on our flap piece. So we want to install our magnetic snap. So I'm going to use the thumb lock on this as my guide, the thumb lock turn lock, because I'm not doing a turn lock, I'm just doing a magnetic snap. So I'm going to be putting my male piece of my magnetic snap right at the center mark here, using my pattern piece as a guide. And then you will install your magnetic snap as per manufacturer's instructions using that placement dot that we use from the pattern piece. Make sure you also back this with a scrap piece of Decovil Heavy just to give it a little more stability, and make sure you are using your male piece. A good rule of thumb is the male piece is always the piece that's going to be moving. Okay, so that has installed. There's my Decovil Heavy to give it some more stability, and I'm just going to put a piece of Gorilla Tape over top of the prongs just to protect it from rubbing against the main panel. And I don't know, for me, it just makes me think it'll stay in place better. So now we're going to take our exterior flap piece and the lining flap piece, and we are going to clip them right sides together. And it looks like I have fixed my shaking camera problem. My table is a little bit uneven and I'm working in a hallway. Okay, so we're going to leave the top open, and with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, stitch all the way around like we have done here. Then we're going to take our pinking shears and just trim around those corners to about an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just the corners. Okay, and then you can turn this right side out. Make sure you push out your seams nicely. You want to get a really nice curve here. And I'm going to just use my purple thing tool here just to push out my seams around those corners better. You can also use a chopstick or an end of a pen or whatever you need, or whatever you can find to poke out those corners. just like so. And then we're going to top stitch that with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I also want to cross the top because we can close up that end. Now we are going to take our exterior pocket piece, mark our centers, again, this is the piece that has the Decovil Lite fused on the back. I'm just going to double check my centers again. And now centered, I'm going to measure up 7 inches from the center mark. Again, taking my invisible ink pen, again I'm using a sew line. Or you could use chalk. I'm using a white fabric, so my chalk doesn't really show up well on here, so I'm using this pen. And I'm going to mark my center there as well, so I know whereabouts it is. This is where we're going to be placing our flap. So about 3 3/4 of an inch in from that center mark. And up 7 inches, we want to make a mark. And this is just going to help us place our flap centered. And I've used my chalk on my black part because I can't see my other part. Okay, now you're going to take your flap piece here, and on the right side, we're going to take a piece of 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape on the right side. And I am going to use my ruler here again. I have a line there, but this is just to make sure it's nice and straight. I actually have my ruler edge sitting at the center part, or the center. And this is just an afterthought of how to make sure I get this nice and centered. So I'm also going to find the center of my flap along that raw edge and just do a very tiny snip. And then line that snip up with where the center mark is on that line we drew, and use my ruler to make sure it's nice and straight. Now the reason I did that is my flap is just a little bit shorter than what it should be. So as you can see, by about 1/4 of an inch on inside, I was off of my lines. So that's okay. We just made it center up. Okay, and we are going to stitch that with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. You can see I have my 1/4 inch there. I'm going to take another piece of double-sided tape because we need to enclose that raw edge now. You could just zigzag that at a 1/4 inch, but I think this is how I want to do it. Okay, and then we are going to fold that along that seam, and the tape will hold it in place like so. And then we're going to top stitch along there with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. There we go. And then you can see those raw edges are completely hidden now. And so that is our flap complete. Okay, so now we want to add our lining to our pocket piece here. So we are going to line them right sides together and clip this top curved edge. Okay, and then we are going to sew this with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just like so. And then we're going to take our pinking shears, and just where that deep curve is, we are going to trim it down. If you don't have pinking shears, you could just do little notches into those curved corners. Okay, and then you are going to flip these around wrong sides together and kind of finger press that seam in place, making sure it's nice and crisp. Now you are going to notice you're going to look like we have wings here. That's okay. Right there, we can trim those off. So I'm just kind of rolling that top seam in between my fingers to get a nice crisp edge and clipping it to prepare it for top stitching. You've got wings on this side too. And that's what you should have. Now you could also take this to the iron if you're not using vinyl or wax canvas and press this edge if you wanted to rather than using clips. Okay, and then I'm going to top stitch along here with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so that piece is done. Now we're going to take our lower slip pocket pieces. These are for the exterior slip pockets. We're going to put them right sides together. This is our lining and our exterior piece. And clip our top. And I'm going to sew that with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just like so, and just like we did with the other pocket, you fold it right sides together, or wrong sides together, and clip it. Now I know that my pocket flap was the wrong size, so I'm not using the pattern piece to figure out where to put my female portion of my magnetic snap. I am placing my pocket where it's going to be, making sure it's even with the bottom of the bag and centered. Again, I cut something wrong. I don't know what it was, but I know that it doesn't match the pattern piece for my placement here for my magnetic snap. So I'm going to eyeball where my magnetic snap is on the flap and where it will join on that part of the bag. Right there. And then you're going to flip the lining piece up and out of the way, because we do not want to be cutting into that for the magnetic snap. You only want to do it on the exterior piece. So again, I'm going to install my female side of my magnetic snap as per manufacturer's instructions, and with the piece of Decovil Heavy in behind my posts and securing with my Gorilla Tape, just like so. And I also, yeah, there's my Gorilla Tape there. Okay, so I'm going to place this under my flap. I'm going to make sure my snap matches up, and it does. Make sure this pocket is nice and even with my main slip pocket. And we are going to place it on top of, well, okay, I ended up going and just basting all these pieces together so they wouldn't slide on me. So that gave us our completed pocket and everything is attached. So let's find the center of the bottom of this pocket. And the front main panel, we're going to match up our centers. and use our clips to hold it all in place. Making sure it's nice and centered. This is where I discovered that I wished I had made my connectors about a 1 inch taller. They're just a little bit lower than I would like them to be. They still look good, but I really wanted my rivets to show and my pocket is covering them. So if you're doing the connectors like I am, that's where I said to cut it to maybe 12 or 12.5 inches rather than the 11 inches. Or if you like it like this, that's what the 11 inches looked like. Okay, now you're going to see that your pocket pieces may seem like they're just a smidgen bigger than the exterior. That is okay, because that is going to give it our front pocket a little bit of give so it can open up and be a functioning pocket. So you just want to match up those raw edges, and you see when you do that, it's going to billow out in the middle. That is what we want. So even though it seems bigger, go ahead and just match up those raw edges. You'll really notice it when you go to do the other side. You can see how much is hanging over there. You can see how it just has a little bit of give there, and that is exactly what we want. So I'm going to take this to the machine, and I am going to base this on with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so that is our main panel done. We have a little bit of give here, which is good. And now we are going to work on our zipper panels. So make sure you have, if you have any hangover of the woven interfacing, that you even it up. And I'm going to take my 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it along one of the long sides of one of the lining zipper panel pieces. And then I'm going to take my zipper tape, also right side up, and stick it to that tape along that edge. Now my zipper tape looks a little long. That is okay. We can trim that up later. Again, if you don't want to use double-sided tape, you could also just use clips. I do double-sided tape so I could skip a step. You could go ahead and base this on right now, but my tape is holding everything nicely in place, so I'm going to just use more double-sided tape and attach my exterior piece. So take your exterior piece right side up on one long edge and add your tape. And then you are going to put this right sides together with that lining piece and right sides together with that zipper tape, sandwiching the zipper tape in between the two panels. Again, you could use clips. You do not have to use tape here. And then I'm going to take this to my machine with my zipper foot on the machine, and I'm going to sew these together along that one side with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance using my zipper foot. My panel's just a little long. I'm just going to trim it up a smidgen here. So 3/8 of an inch seam allowance with your zipper foot. Okay, so this is what that looks like. So because I can't iron my vinyl, I'm using some more double-sided tape. Double-sided tape is always your friend if your machine can handle it. Again, you can just finger press this or use your iron if you have used cloth. You do not need to use double-sided tape like I do. I just really like my double-sided tape. So I'm putting that along that seam. And then I'm going to push my vinyl away from the zipper as tight as I possibly can to that seam. And make sure my stitching is even, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the lining panel. Again, on the lining side, if you've used cotton, you can definitely go ahead and just press this with the iron. Just be careful not to touch your vinyl. And pull it nice and taut away from the zipper teeth, because you do not want this lining catching into the zipper at all. So the tape just helps hold it in place. Okay, and then I'm going to take this to my machine and top stitch right along there with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then with the other side of the zipper tape and my other two panels, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So this is our completed zipper panel. She looks good. Now we are going to prepare our gussets, but we need to put on our side pockets. So the top of our pockets is the longer edge there. You want to take your exterior and your lining right sides together and clip it along that top side or top edge. So the longest edge, not the short one on the bottom. I lied. You are also going to stitch along the short one. So you're going to go 3/8 of an inch here and 3/8 of an inch here. And do the same with the other piece. Okay, so we have that done. Now we have a tube. So we want to put them wrong sides together. Finger press these good. Now this is where I meant. We are not going to top stitch the bottom part, which is the narrow part. We are only going to top stitch the wider side up top. So right along there, and you're going to do the same with the other piece. So there you go. The top is top stitched and the bottom is not. Now you're going to take your gusset piece, and from one short edge, you're going to measure up 1 1/4 inches and make a line. I am going to take the short edge of my pocket piece that we did not top stitch, and I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape to help hold this in place. And we are going to line the top of our pocket piece with that chalk drawn line that we just made. Now this is pretty easy to center because the bottom should be the same width as the gusset. So put it along that line, make sure the bottom is lined up with that gusset piece, and then push it in place to stick it down. And now we are going to match up the sides of the pocket with the gusset and clip them together. So of course the piece is bigger than this, and this is what's giving us the side pocket with that little bit of billowing. And do the same with the other side. Making sure that the lining and the exterior pieces are all lined up nicely. Just like so. And then you're going to go and top stitch down here across that bottom and back up the side, and then rinse and repeat with the other side. Okay, so there we have it. We have our two side pockets done. Now we want to take our lining piece, our zipper panel, and that bottom gusset piece with the pockets. We are going to put the two short ends right sides together of the exteriors. And then you're going to take your lining piece and put it right sides together with the lining side of our zipper panel. So we have the zipper panel sandwiched in between our lining and our exterior gusset pieces. And then we are going to sew these together with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. We're going to pull them wrong sides together and then top stitch right along here, just like so. Okay, now this side's a little trickier. So you want to put these, again, our right sides together. So our exterior gusset and the exterior of our zipper panel. And then we are going to loop our lining gusset up to match that. And this is what we're going to have. We're going to look like we have two loops, almost like a figure 8 in a way. And we're going to go and stitch that with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now we have something that looks like this. So we want to put our gussets wrong sides together. So you're going to kind of just flip the lining over like so. And then this enables us to be able to go and top stitch right along here. And then we are also going to go ahead all around in the circle on both sides and baste these two layers together. And there we go. We have our whole gusset and zipper panel pieces complete and all basted together. Now we want to find the top and bottom centers. So the way you're going to do that is you're going to take the two seams from our zipper panels that we made, that we just sewn, match them up, pull it nice and tight, and then make a small snip or mark where the center of that zipper panel is, and do the same on the other side. And then you need to find the center of the bottom. So the same thing, match up those seams where the zipper panels and the gusset meet, and snip our bottom on both sides. I'm just double checking my centers and I look pretty good. Okay, so I went ahead of time because I don't do these the same as the pattern, my zipper pocket and my slip pocket. I like to do them a different way, so follow along in her pattern if you want to do them her way. So now what we want to do is we want to take our exterior and our lining panels, figure out which one is going to go to which. I like my slip pocket to be at the front of the bag, so I am going to clip the slip pocket lining panel wrong sides together with my front exterior panel, matching up those center marks so we know it's nice and even. And clip all the way around and do the exact same thing with the back panel and your other lining panel. So this is what we have. We have our front with our slip pocket, our back with our zipper pocket, and they're all one piece now. Now we are going to attach this to our gusset. Make sure you have your centers marked. Take your gusset cylinder, kind of flip it inside out because we are going to want to clip this on right sides together. So we will start with this panel. Match your zipper panel center and the top center, and put a couple clips, and then move to the bottom and match those centers. Believe it or not, we are almost done. One thing that's nice about a binding finish is your top stitching is never awkward because it's always done before the fact. That's what I like about binding anyways. I do not have a cylinder arm machine, so it just makes it awkward sometimes doing the top stitching, so binding sometimes saves that. Okay, so now you are going to match your raw edges in between those clips all the way around. Make sure to use lots of clips. You don't want it shifting at all. Now, some people do use staples around these corners. I am not a fan of staples just because I always have the fear of leaving them in there and having them poke somebody or whatever. But some people swear by it, especially when you're doing corners on a bag to hold it together. So feel free to do that. If you do use staples, make sure you're keeping them like at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then make sure you go through and pull them all out when done. I'm just going to use a gazillion clips instead to hold everything in place. I guess another thing you could do as well, if you didn't want to use clips, is you could go ahead and hand baste it. But I like to use clips. Okay, now you can see here my gusset doesn't quite fit around this corner, so I'm just going to, on the corner, do some snips within the seam allowance just to help spread that fabric out to help it around that corner. And then you can see how it fits in there nicely now. I can see that I'm not super even here, so I'm just going to trim it up a little bit. There we go. Okay, go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other side. Okay, now I'm at the machine. I have put on my zipper foot. It is the easiest way to do this. And now I am going to baste these together with my panel side down, my gusset side up, and I'm going to baste these together with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I just do this going clip by clip, taking the corners nice and slow. Sometimes it helps to use an awl to hold the seams in place if you need to do that. You can definitely do that as well. And if you undo the zipper panel, it just helps get around the zipper panel curves a lot easier. Okay, so that's one side done. You're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other side. Make sure that your straps are out of the way and you're not catching them in your stitching at all. Double check that everything looks good, and we do. So go ahead and grab your other panel and do the exact same thing. Okay, so I have both panels attached here. I kind of just peek inside to see that it's all good. The straps I am pulling out now. I just find it's going to be a lot easier when we're putting on the binding. Now I'm not going to show you how I do the binding. I do have a tutorial on how to do binding. It's down in the description below, or you could watch my Erica Bowler bag tutorial and you can see me doing the binding there. All right, so we have this all done. We've turned it out. Now this was the part I struggled with the most, was putting on the hardware for the back adjustable back strap. So you want to have the strap follow it so it's right side up. You're going to take your slider, put the end in one side, around the center part and down the other side. Okay, and then you're going to take that end and you are going to put it kind of from the outside part of the ring inward to the inside part of the ring. Again, my vinyl is really thick here. If I had had some wide sliders, wide mouth sliders, I would have used them, but I don't, so I'm just going to struggle with them here. Okay, and then you're going to put this kind of up the center here to the inside of that slider, in behind where we had first put it through before. So it's going to go up through here. Again, because I have a finished edge, it's a little bit tight. And then you're going to pull that around and put it down and around the middle slider again, like so. So it's to the inside of where we put the strap through before. Again, my vinyl is very thick, so it's a little bit of a struggle just getting my finished end through here. Okay, so I finally got it through. All right, so you're going to want to have where that free end is about 1 inch or 1.25 inches-ish through on the center here, overhanging. I think I have about 1.5 inches actually. And then we are going to rivet that. So it's going to be riveted to the inside loop where we just looped up the through that rectangular ring. You can stitch this as well. I always secure my straps with rivets. And press that rivet and our straps are done here. Okay, just double check to make sure that everything looks good and it's going the right way, and we are golden. Okay, so now all that's left to do, if you're doing it my way, is to attach our handles. So attach them just like we always do. Again, I attach mine using rivets. So I'm going to go ahead and rivet these around, make sure they're not twisted, and then that finishes the bag.
Alright guys, so that is done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Again, thank you Alexis for allowing me to do tutorials on your amazing patterns. Yeah, Alexis just has such an amazing mind for design of bags and shapes, so I love being part of her YouTube team. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed this tutorial. Give me a thumbs up if you like. If you have any questions, my information's down below. You can shoot me an email or leave a comment or contact me on my Facebook page. Yeah, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. All those subscribes helps other people see my videos, and I want to be able to help as many people as I possibly can out there in the bag makers community. Again, thank you all for all your support, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.